Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Jeff Grubb. Gonna hang out and play System Shock 2 25th Anniversary Edition. I think I got all those words right. With some friends here. I got some people here that are gonna come here and talk to me about the game from Night Dive. We got Stephen Kick and Larry Cooperman. Boys, how's it going? Let's start with you, Stephen. How you doing?
Doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining me. We're gonna talk about the game. You're the game director and director at Night Dive. What's the title? What should I go with?
I am officially the studio head at Night Dive Studios.
We actually just picked our titles yesterday for Giant Bomb. I'm president of Giant Bomb. Now it doesn't mean anything, but that's what people have to call me now, and I really appreciate that. Also joining Larry Cooperman. How's it going?
Jeff? And my title is just biz dev over at Night Dive.
Okay. Fantastic. Yes. And we were talking beforehand, before we got started, that you're the one that requested we do this. Like, you actually, hey, as soon as we announced that we bought Giant Bomb, you wanted to make it happen. How did that go down?
I saw your post that you had acquired Giant Bomb on social media, and I thought to myself, damn, they have seized the means of production.
That's right, we did. We found a way to make it happen, and now you're here, and that's fantastic. So, you know what? We can hop into the game, check it out. But I mean, let's like kind of start and lay down the basics. System Shock 2 25th Anniversary Remaster. What is the 25th Anniversary Remaster? Like, what does that mean? What should people take away from that? What work went into this?
Oh man, great question. Well, as you may or may not know, System Shock 2 is kind of the game that kickstarted all of Night Dive Studios back in 2012. It was the first game that I was able to kind of track down and re-release, and it started this whole thing of going out and finding lost games and re-releasing them for people to enjoy again. So here we are 13, 14 years later. We've done like 120 games or something like that. And this is kind of our love letter to what started it all for us.
Really, like that many games? I guess I haven't really kept count in my head, but it really has been a ton. I didn't realize it was that many. So, okay, so when you are going from a game that you guys started, you worked on before, and now you have an opportunity to like kind of update it again. Was it like you've learned a lot from doing so much else that you could apply to this, or there was always these things sort of hanging in the background? You're like, I wish we could have done that in the first place. How did that all work out?
Well, that's pretty much precisely it. When we first released this game, it was just the original game, accompanied by a fan patch called New Dark that allowed it to be run on modern operating systems that we didn't have anything to do with.
Right.
The timing of that patch and the release and everything was just kind of a happy accident. But, over the last 13 years or so, we've developed our own technology. We use the Kex engine for all of our modern re-releases. And that enables us to go in and actually do full remasters, which is what this is. So, yeah, really, like you said, this is just an example of how far we've come and what we're capable of, and we've put everything that we've got into this to kind of showcase what it is we can do at Night Dive.
And like that, one of the things that we had wanted to address that until recently we really just didn't have the full capabilities to address. Recently being the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years, was the multiplayer system, and we thought that was something really important. As we were working on the game, we were also developing our own skills, from a number of other titles.
So, when it does come to this game specifically, what the multiplayer system, like what else like stands out to you guys that you guys really are happy with now that you had a chance to revisit this?
Well, right now I'm watching the live stream, and all these cinematics were completely remade from scratch. So yeah, that's like the first thing that we want people to see in a lot of these games, is that we care enough to go back and remake things if the source materials were lost, or maybe the originals are not quite good enough to be up-res to some degree. Like we're gonna put that work in, and we're gonna remake it so that it displays beautifully on a 4K screen. It runs at 120 FPS, whatever. That's one thing I've been very proud of, and that started as early as our Quake 2 remaster that we did with Bethesda, where we started, remaking the cinematics.
When it comes to remaking the cinematics, I've like noticed that here, but also it also just felt like, wait, is this remake? How do you sort of strike a balance of when you're remaking something, making it still feel like it came from the era it was originally made in, which is something I do think you guys were able to hit here.
Yeah, well, our artists, they go in basically frame by frame and they recreate the assets, and then they set the scenes, and they film it.
Mm-hmm.
They add the post-processing effects, they animate, they do everything that was done for the original, but just at a slightly higher fidelity that will, not break down at higher resolutions.
One thing that we've stuck with since our very beginnings and going forward to today's most recent releases is the idea that the game should play the way you remember them to play.
Right.
Not as something completely different. Not as now look, they are not the way that they were originally because technology has moved on. But to bring back that feeling and that nostalgia, and that's something that I think really distinguishes the work at Night Dive.
When you guys are like picking and choosing what to improve, what to update, what to modernize, and you realize that you're going to be shipping this as a product, this is something that you're going to be, hey, asking that community, let's pay for something new, and we're going to make that work worth it. How do you sort of position that in a world of PC gaming that is so filled with communities doing modding and to update stuff? How do you sort of view yourself compared to that? How do you make sure that you create a decent value proposition?
That's a great question.
Yeah, Larry, do you want to take that?
No, go ahead, Steve. Why don't you take the first one, then I'll jump in.
Well, one thing that just needs to be said is that we probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the various modding communities that have supported the games that we've worked on. They're kind of the original preservationists in that they've kept the games alive to some degree, from hosting, the original files to ensuring that the games run on modern operating systems to the best of their abilities. And in most cases, when we pick a game or a publisher comes to us and they want us to work on a game, the first thing we do is we go to those communities and we want to bring those people on board so that they have their opportunity to do something in an official capacity. And I'd say probably 75% of our team comes from those various modding communities. And then they get to work on these games full time and see their work appreciated by much larger audiences, because then, we've got the ability to port the game on console, that kind of thing. I'll say that those people are the most passionate developers that are out there, because initially they did all this on their own, not expecting it to get paid, not expecting to get compensated, and they just did it because they love the game so much, and that's really kind of what makes up the core of our team.
Also, I'm just
to build.
I realized I should just stream this, guys, to you in Discord. I forgot to do that. I'll do that real quick so you guys could just watch the native gameplay right in there. But there we go. All right, that should be happening now. All right, go ahead, Larry. What were you going to say?
Right now.
I was going to say just to build on what Steve said. I mean, we've recruited very heavily from the modding communities. Even when people don't want to join us on a full-time basis, we always try to reach out to the original developers, the original masterminds behind the games. I mean, you've seen some of that on the deep dive broadcast that we've done. Recently we spoke with both Paul Neurath and Warren Spector about their games. But if you look back at the thing, we brought on Ron Asciante and Mark Atkinson, who were both part of the original Computer Artworks team, to help us. And when I say help, it's not just with the technology, but also to make sure that we stay true to the original vision.
I mean, there are a lot of remasters out there. I do, I consider myself a Night Dive fan. When I pick up one of your games, I don't think about it that much, but I do feel like it clicks into place of like, oh, this does feel right. What is the artistry there to like get these things to feel right?
A lot of it is just making sure we don't kind of push beyond the foundations that are already been built, by the original developers, especially the artists. And it's just a matter of making sure that we don't kind of put our own kind of mark on it, if that makes sense. So like,
Sure.
we're not changing things, we're not changing the aesthetic, we're not changing the overall direction. Again, I'll use Quake as a good reference for this because it was one of the first games that we had a dedicated art team to update the visuals, and basically their goal was to take those original models, add a couple polygons to smooth things out, make the animations a little bit smoother, kind of relax the UVs so that the textures didn't warp around the seams, that kind of stuff, and just add that final little level of polish that may have not have been possible in the mid 90s due to technical constraints. And what we're left with is a game that many people went into and they went at first, hey, wait a minute, what did they actually do here?
Right.
They couldn't see it until they took a moment to stop and actually look at the details, and then it all kind of comes into focus and you're like, oh my goodness, like there was a lot of work here, but we did it so well that even the veteran players kind of didn't even notice, which is it's kind of a good and a bad thing. But that's our goal. It's like what Larry said, it's the game that you remember in your mind, not necessarily the game that you played originally.
Is there
a long time ago, I did an interview, and this is not just true of Night Dive. I've worked for other companies before. I did an interview, and I said, in game development, the longest journey often starts with the words, what else would be cool?
Yeah.
What we've been really good at is that discipline of not chasing the latest fashion trend, but of saying, is this true to the original subject matter?
Is that difficult? Like, is it difficult to be like to suppress the urge to be like, sometimes maybe we know better than they did back then when they were doing this? Is it like just that primary goal, that prime directive is to preserve?
I think that's part of it. I also think that there are accommodations. I'm gonna pivot to one of our earliest titles. When we were working on Turon, if you played the original version of Turon, probably the single quality that stood out most was the fog.
Right.
And working with the original dev team, they wanted a higher level of detail and fidelity than had been achieved in games before. And to do that, they had to make a compromise. They used the fog to limit the sight distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could have more detail, but a shorter sight distance. Well, technology has moved on. We knew that we wanted to make use of what's available today, of the hardware that's available today. So we're going to minimize that fog, or at least scale it back. One of the folks that we worked with at NBC asked us, said, well, why don't you give players choice? And so you can play it either with the original fog on, if you want to be true to the original version, or you can play it in a more enhanced version with a greater draw distance. It's up to the player. But we knew when we were making that change, it was thoughtful and considered, that we were doing something that was realizing the vision of the original developers, which is different than saying, oh, we're gonna put something in that's the latest fashion.
Okay, that makes actually a ton of sense. That does come through when I'm playing the games, I think. Is sort of does everything sort of work that way, where it's just like you have these guiding principles, but as you're working with the developers, as you're working with people, things can be a little bit malleable as long as it feels, truthful to the game?
I think that's true of our remasters. Steve, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your vision on the System Shock remake.
Yeah, well, as long as we're still talking about, remasters and, what the original developers kind of had in mind. I think Shadow Man is a fantastic example. When we started working on that, we kind of went hand in hand with one of the original developers who still had a lot of the design documents and source code and a lot of love for the project still. And one of the things that they asked us to do was to finish the game.
Right.
And that meant basically build a number of levels that got cut due to time constraints. And thankfully we had, the developers there, and we also had the design documents to kind of lead us through that process. So, we followed what it is they wanted to accomplish, and our artists and our level designers essentially finished the game 20 some odd years later to the
awesome.
original vision that they had. And that's not something we would have done, if the developers weren't there to essentially ask us to do it. That wasn't really our responsibility outside of just making the game, run and look beautiful on modern machines. So that was an opportunity for our guys to kind of stretch their legs and really do something creative too on top of what we normally do, which is remaster classic games.
So you guys have done a lot of remasters now. You've also done stuff like what you did with, like described with Shadow Man, which feels like something more. System Shock 1, which is maybe something even more. How are you guys feeling about like the business of remasters, the business of working with old games? How has that changed? How have people changed their view of you? Like, give me the rundown there.
When I call people up, I don't have to spell Night Dive anymore.
That's probably got to be a bit of a relief now. That be a bit of a household name for the people that at least that you're talking to, right?
Yeah, I think I think it's fair to say that at this point, we've been growing our team. That has increased quite a bit since becoming part of the Atari family. We have more capabilities. We can do more, and yet at that point, I still feel that we have more projects coming in than we can easily handle.
Is there like a lot of demand for you all specifically? Like, are there people coming to you and saying, "Hey, we want the Night Dive treatment"?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
are you guys in a position where you're picking and choosing a little bit, or do you try to accommodate everybody?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a challenge. So if Disney comes to us and says, "Hey, we'd like you to remaster Star Wars Dark Forces," right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that I feel that I can say, "Well, thanks a lot for thinking of us, but let me check my calendar and see when I can fit you in." I'm going to take the game.
Sure.
Again, as I've said in the past about our relationship with Bethesda, somebody asks you to remaster Doom, you don't have to think long about that.
Right.
That said, I think where we're at now is to maintain our rhythm of releases and not sacrifice quality.
For you, Steven, are there white whales? Are there games out there still left out there that you kind of be like, man, I can't wait to get my hands on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big one is No One Lives Forever.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. That's been fairly well documented.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are just two of my all-time favorite games. And yeah, I mean, one day, hopefully we'll get to work on them. That would be a great thing to bring back. I think those games specifically are just underappreciated and need to be played by more people. But gosh, what else? I mean, there's a ton of games. I'd say, I'm looking at the chat. Somebody just said Deus Ex. I mean, that would be a fantastic game to remaster.
The chat is trolling me specifically because of my Blight Club history, where I did play through the entirety of Daikatana. And I did not play the patched version. I played the launch version of the game, which is rough. So I have a sordid history with that game, I'll say. But even I would really appreciate something like along those lines. Is that something that's ever come up as a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll be the first to say I think Daikatana's got a ton of potential.
I agree with that. Actually, it has potential.
I think the longer you stay in the business, the idea of going back and revisiting something, especially something that did not do as well as it might have. I think the idea of going back and revisiting that, giving it a second chance to something like that becomes really appealing.
Real quick. Somebody else, Top Drawer, just said Blood 2, and I think that's another one where there's a lot of potential there because we heard from the original developers themselves that the game was not finished.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't what they wanted to put out, and they've given us basically a list of things that they wanted to finish on it that could be done. If we were given the opportunity. So yeah, Blood 2 I think is another one that could use some serious love.
So what are projects you guys are working on right now? How busy are you? Because to me it sounds like every minute of the day could be filled working up on various remasters that you guys have in front of you. But also, like, are you at the same time? Is there any concern that you're going to run out of this, finite resource of old games that people want to see again?
Are you kidding? In 20 years, I'll be remastering Death Stranding too.
Yeah, it does feel that way, right? Where it's like maybe the timeline for people even desiring remasters is compressing a little bit. But yeah, like how much are you guys working on right now?
I'd say at pretty much at any given time, we've got between like 3 and 5 projects going on. System Shock 25th Anniversary Remaster comes out. The PC version comes out tomorrow. Our next big thing will be at QuakeCon this year in August, like the last 3 years. And then, we've got some other games that we'll be announcing, hopefully not too long after that.
I'll be out at Gamescom talking about something else also. So.
Oh, okay. So basically, all the big events coming up, you guys have something going on.
Yeah, we try.
Okay, so for me, a long time, I've just associated Night Dive with classic first-person games. That's not clearly at this point. That's not the only thing Night Dive has done. But as you guys have slowly started to take on other various projects, has the kind of opportunities you've been offered expanded as well in a sort of a way that is equal to that, equivalent to that, where it's like, okay, yeah, we do want to be old 3D platformers and stuff like that. We want that remastered just as much as old first-person shooters, or do people still associate you with, hey, that's the team that remasters FPS games?
I'll throw one out there. There's something that we've recently done that has certainly resonated with fans, but I know it got media attention, but I'm not sure that everyone saw the point. We recently worked with a partner company to do something that we just didn't have either the bandwidth or the background to do, which was to port I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream to console. We had done now for those in the audience that might not know it, it is a classic point and click game. And we had done the work to bring it to PC years ago, many years ago, and it was not a full remaster then, but it was playable on PC for the first time, and it was something that was important to us. Steve had a long relationship with the late great Harlan Ellison, the author of the story.
Right.
So we partnered with someone that we'd chosen pretty carefully, who'd worked with our brethren over at Atari before, and brought that game over to console. And I think that there are more opportunities out there where a full remaster might not be possible, or might be difficult for various reasons. Maybe something legal, maybe just the source code was lost, or even that we just didn't have the bandwidth to do that at the time. There were other projects, other commitments that we made. But that's something that I think is pretty interesting. We're sort of talking about calling those games restorations, as
Oh,
opposed
interesting.
to a remake or a remaster. It is what it is, but we've been able to bring it over to console platforms. I think that that's something, it's been part of our DNA, that people should be able to play games on whatever platform they choose.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's always something like even with this, it's like God, I associate System Shock 2 with PC. I actually never played System Shock 2 ever. When I was young as a kid, my older brother played it, and it was like one of the first times I've been like, man, he's into games in a way that even I'm not. And he was kind of showing it to me a little bit, and so to then get it, even playing it on the Steam Deck with controls there, it was like, oh wow, this does just work in a really surprising way. But then, yeah, bringing these games to console, that is like really a thing that you guys do offer, that is not available when you have the mods or whatever, like where it's like, hey, yeah, that's great. People who love this game are finding ways to dig into it in a deeper way than ever. But you guys do offer that value there, and that has worked for you, right? That people do enjoy playing these games that they've heard about, but they are console people, and that is something that clicks for them.
given the success of that title, yes, it has worked out great. And given the success of that title, we're looking at potentially doing other projects that would be more of a restoration than, here's a game that we made play on PlayStation, on Xbox, and on Switch. You can have a different experience. We forget sometimes that there are people that play games differently
Oh,
than us,
yes. Yeah, I don't even consider it
right?
sometimes, and I'm always kind of a little bit embarrassed when I'm like, oh, of course people do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so restoration, remaster, remake. Do you guys have debates about what's what internally? It sounds like you do. It always feels like the kind of thing that's like message board fodder, or we'll say something on a podcast and people will be like, that's not a remake, that's a remaster, or vice versa. Do you guys have the same sort of arguments?
I think we've pretty much narrowed it down to, what each of those things represents. Like, Larry was just talking about the I Have No Mouth restoration. It's the original game for most part. The original code, original art. It just works on newer platforms. Whereas System Shock 2 here is a remaster. We've gone in, we've updated a lot of things. The art is different. The cinematics are brand new. We added voice lines to add compatibility with console players, and to get by the certification process with Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. The animations have been cleaned up, and not only that, but this runs on our Kex engine. It's the original code, but it's working within the confines of our proprietary tech. And then we've got something like the System Shock remake, which is made completely from the ground up, all brand new in the Unreal Engine 5, or I'm sorry, 4. And so that's kind of how we describe the. Oh, I just saw you die.
Yeah, it's like, of course, the Jeff Grubb classic, never saved. Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
That's all right though. I'm enjoying like kind of getting my bearings here in the first place, so it's like now I know exactly what I'm doing. I'll just go do that again. That's one thing. Chat, you guys go all let them know I'm great at saving. Right, #1 saver in the galaxy. But yeah, so okay. So those differences do matter to you all, and it like. Does it also like sort of inform how you are like not only like approach your project, but approach certain problems on a game? Like, no, this is System Shock 2 25th anniversary remaster, so that means when we do have a problem like the CGI, the old cinematics, it's going to be difficult to make that look right. so we're going to do it in a certain way, or does every game sort of demand its own solution?
Yeah, there's different solutions for every game. Every game needs something different. Somebody mentioned in the chat, they noticed that when you are holding the weapons, specifically like the pistol, we added the other hand.
Yeah,
on
two
the gun.
hands.
And there's also reload animations now too. And those are just like things that add just a little bit of polish. Things that we can do now because we're working, within the animation system as well, having access to the code and all that. So it's like we can kind of massage things and make things just a little more appealing. I'm watching you play again.
Yeah, no problem. I gotcha.
Well, I applaud you that you can play this and talk at the same time.
I started on the Steam Deck. I'm like, I haven't had any time. I've been busy doing a million things. Starting up a new company has been keeping me busy. So it's like I hadn't had a lot of time to play this, and now I'm like, well, I'm gonna be spending a lot more time playing this now. So
yeah. let me just say on that, Jeff. Welcome to being a capitalist.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I knew there were downfalls to capitalism. Now I'm finding out firsthand.
This game demands a lot of attention from the player too. So
yeah, and I've always had like a shaky relationship with MSIMs generally, because it's a genre that I know I should love. It should fit with the way I play games, but I often get in a situation where it's like, hey, they're gonna let you solve this however you want. And then it's like, well, I could do the magic thing. I could use all my powers. I could use this clever hacking thing. And then I always end up stacking boxes on one another so I can get over the wall or whatever. And I'm like, I feel like a big dumbass. but I still I think maybe the issue is I never started like with the early parts of the genre. And so I'm like, this is an opportunity to do exactly that.
It's really funny how our early gaming experiences, shape much of our later gameplay. The question that I get asked over and over again, particularly in interviews, is, well, what games did you play when you were growing up? And I just laugh and I say, you got to realize they hadn't invented it until I was a grown man with a full-time job. I may well have been married before I got a 2600. So. By the way, the Atari relationship lasted longer than that marriage anyway. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jay.
I was gonna say, you've seen it all now. At this point, I know you were used to work at sort of like kind of a similar sort of business dev role of finding partners for GameStop when they were doing the PC gaming stuff.
I refer to that as the dark time, but yeah,
we all do. We understand. So how has things changed since you've seen so much of it now?
So that's a great question. I think the first thing, so even back before GameStop, I was at Stardock, and
right.
And Stardock, we were kind of neck and neck with Steam about releasing the first client for that allowed you to buy and recover games digitally. I tell people all the time, until you realize how much digital has changed things, you just don't understand the gaming ecosystem. Mm-hmm. When I began in the business, games were sold in boxes in stores. I mean,
even before, like, they were sold in baggies by dudes in garages. And it's like, when you think about it from that point of view, there was a, I can never remember his name, which is a shame. The guy that's Spider Soft or whatever, Jeff, I can't remember his name, but he did a speech at GDC where he talks about like Steam's value. And it's like, yeah, they take a 30% cut, but they do all the stuff you had to do yourself before. And it's like that 30% starts to feel like a deal when you look back at all the costs you had for everything. And the fact that digital kind of came in and disrupted everything to the point where like even the boxes in the stores don't really matter. They don't have that value they once did. It's such a seismic shift.
Look! Over the last 3 or 4 years, and this year seems to be on course. The game of the year is probably going to be from an indie studio.
Yes,
and I tell people
a game out of nowhere.
A game out of nowhere. Something that had we had to show. I mean, when I began my career, part of the business development was going to shows and showing the Walmart buyers your game and trying to persuade them on that. And that was, you were trying to talk people who didn't play games into into picking up your title. So if something was new and different, odds are it would never see the light of day.
Right, and like that, because you're right, because it was such a narrow understanding of what would sell, and now when anything can come out of any, like continues to be why like Steam is like this place where it's like, okay, the next big game that has the new idea that can come out of nowhere is going to likely happen in early access on Steam, and not always early access, but it does feel like that's where a lot of that's like, at least the ideas, like a PUBG or something like that. And it's going to change everything.
Or something really quirky that might be a flash in the pan, but gave us a lot of enjoyment. Schedule 1.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Can you imagine going in and trying to pitch that to some of the most conservative retail people in the world?
Yep. And
so this game, it's about drugs. You mean it's against drugs? Well.
Oh, didn't save again. Well, I'm just gonna wrap up anyhow. Yeah, you're like even like the beyond like the subject matter, right? Like just the idea of it is a game that people might play with their friends a couple of times, and like that would have been hard to sell. But now it's like, that's kind of worth it. I'm gonna get this $10 game. We'll have a couple of hangout sessions, and I know if I convince my friends to get it, we'll have a good time. It really has kind of just shifted everything, and largely in a positive way, it seems like, for me. Obviously there's downfalls to it.
I think so. Even the stuff that I don't play, or that I'd be okay if it wasn't made, I'm glad actually that it's out there, that there's a wide diversity of things to choose from.
All right, Larry, Steven, is there anything like we didn't touch on for System Shock 2 that you guys want to bring up? I like we talked about so much, and I was so curious about so much. Maybe we didn't talk enough about that. But I'm enjoying what I've seen so far. I think like chat seems to be into it as well. Anything you guys want to touch on?
Just want to tell our fans, for 12, 13 years, System Shock has been a part of my life. Steve, even longer for you, I guess, and what you're seeing from us is really a labor of love.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's my hope that we find at least one new fan of the game after all is said and done, and I hope that everybody here gets a chance to try the multiplayer with some friends, because it's a really, really fun time. I
am going to send a copy to my brother, who still plays games sometimes, but I don't think he's really done a lot of PC gaming in a long time. And I'm going to send this to him. He can play it anywhere, I know, but I want to see if I can get him back into PC gaming and send this to him, and maybe we'll do some multiplayer. That would be very fun. And now you guys mentioned it. It's like I wasn't even considering it. You're right. I wasn't even really thinking about the multiplayer. Maybe we'll do some on Giant Bomb. Larry, Steven, thank you guys so much for sitting in with me while we did this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Likewise. Thank you everybody for watching. If you are watching live, in just like 15 minutes, Blight Club's going to be back. Mike's going to be playing Rascal. He should be finishing the game, and he's going to look so cool, which is what's most important. We'll get to that here very soon. Thanks for watching this. Until next time, everybody, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.